A very good evening to every one of you. Uh, it's a Friday evening, and I hope that you will find this webinar interesting. It's one of a series of webinars that we do, and what better time to have a discussion, have some questions and answers with all the changes which are going around us with the immigration department. Now, just a little bit about our webinar. I'll be going through a few slides and touching on a few areas and keeping plenty of time for questions and answers. And if I can have right, and we should be talking about all the current topics that we are having. And as I said, we'll be having plenty of time for questions and answers. Right, let's keep going. So the first thing that we will be doing is to find out what are the changes. So we'll be touching on employer-sponsored visas, the new rules for 2024-25. Any options for students who are over 35? There's been a lot of talk about that. And the changes to the 485 visa, key updates, and also preparing for the skill migration with a few of the state governments opening up already. For the people who have not listened to my webinars, at the moment, I'm currently a migration agent registered from the year 2006. I'm also a CPA and a fellow member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants in London. And I'm also a senior member of the MIA. Now, let's go into our first topic. Employer-sponsored visas, new rules, 2024-25, understanding the key changes, requirements for employer-sponsored visas for the 25 migration year. And the first TISMIT. This is, I believe, as you all know, is something very, very unreasonable. Just a few years ago, it started at 50,000, 53,000, which I thought was reasonable. It's pushed up to 70,000. And this doesn't allow many of the small business owners to, in fact, sponsor applicants, because this is quite a high amount that an employer has to pay, 73,150. As I said, could I please leave the questions and answers to the end of the presentation? And work requirements. Now, this is a good change that we welcome. For you to apply for a subclass 482, a temporary skill shortage visa, currently, you need to have 2 years of work experience. Now, this really becomes a difficulty for many of our students who finish their studies, and now in the future, most of them are getting 2 years. And what happens is that, okay, there is a period of maybe 3-4 months that you're waiting for the 485 visa. But then what happens is that the 2 years starts ticking. So how do we finish our studies, find employment, and complete 2 years? Of course, notwithstanding, you're looking at general skill migration on the point system, but we are now talking about employer sponsored. So this is a good welcoming rule change that we believe that will come in November, that in order to apply for a subclass 482 visa, you need just 1 year. And this will come into effect in November. Exact date, not known, but November. Now, this will help many of the students who have taken a bit of time to find employment in their field to, in fact, apply for a 482 visa subject to the support of the employer. Now, we all know that where the rules changed a few months ago, if you get a subclass 482 visa, irrespective of whether they are in the medium to long term, the short term, or ROL, the regional occupation list, you can apply for permanent residency under the subclass 186 transitional basis after 2 years. So getting that 482 is so important. And this reduction from 2 years requirement, work requirement, to 1 year is really great. I also want to point out a question that people ask me is how if I work part-time? In the 482 work requirement, there is a situation where, in fact, you can apportion. Let's say someone was working part-time for 1 year, they can claim 6 months on as a proportionate basis, which is a pretty good thing too, because as students, and when you qualify and you get part-time work, how can you use that? Now, the third change is, I can assure you, working with many 482, 494, and of course 457 was the previous visa, which are similar to the 482 now. There are instances where it's very common that there are instances where a person is made redundant or want to move on, or so they are really tied down to the employer. And if you want to change, you are only given 60 days. Now, that was the old rule. Now, the department has changed that to a very generous 180 days. You can take up to 6 months to find another employer who is willing to sponsor you. On that, you don't have to apply for the visa again. You want to get a new nomination because for some reason you couldn't get along, or you were made redundant with the previous 482 applicant. And also, very important is that till such time that you find a job and an employer who is willing to sponsor you in your occupation, you can work anywhere else in any occupation during the 60 days. They went on to say that, let's say that you took about 4 or 5 months and you found an employer and that didn't work out too. So then you can get another 60 days I'm sorry, another 180 days. I'm sorry if I made a mistake there. 180 days you could take to find another employer. So once again, I'll go back. The original rule was 60 days. And the new rule is you have 6 months, which is approximately 180 days, to find another employer. And if you do find another employer and that didn't work out, you've got another 180 days. And in the term of your 482 visa, which is, let's say, 4 years, you have now about a year in 2 lots to change employers. So this is very good. It is useful, and it doesn't put too much of pressure when you take a 482 and feel that you're really tied down. So let's go into our new topic, another new topic that we want to talk about, but alternate options for students who are 35. Now, I'm going to take some practical examples, and perhaps many of the participants may have their questions answered, but as I said, plenty of time to have questions and answers. Let's say, take an example of someone who is, by the way, till your 36th birthday, you can still apply for a 485. So it can be 35 and 364 days. So let's say that you are gone past 36 and you're studying, and this is putting a lot of pressure on many of the students. The statistics from the department says that we have about 17,000 students who are over 35 years of age. And what do we do? I have broken down this into three parts. A person who is 35 or more, I believe, would have had some work experience from the time they left school and they did their studies. So it's important to find out whether, though you took the student visa option, whether you in fact qualify for general skill migration. Now, I'm going to take an example here. Let's say that a person who did a business degree, who didn't take a major in accounting. I'm trying to take this example, and these are actual examples that we have gone through with our clients, have worked as an accountant. But we can't get a skill assessment as an accountant because the bachelor's degree was not a major in accounting. Now, for a student like that, and he's now in Australia working as an accountant too. So what do we do there? So from the student visa, we will then go to point number 3 and say, let's study further in order to get a major in accounting. Now we know that, yes, you can go and study further, but you're not going to get a 485. But if you are working in the field of accounting and you're doing further studies and you will qualify, you need to have, of course, you have the option of a 190 and 189, but that doesn't come fast. We don't know when it's come. But if your employer is willing to sponsor you, this is the time that you can either go for a 482 or a 407 visa, depending on your requirements. Another thing that I always talk about and really scrutinize, check the CV very carefully. What have you done? And you would have worked for 15 years after you went to school. What did you do exactly? So if they have done some occupation and we can think of matching that to an occupation in the skill occupation list, we'll encourage to find an employer so that they could apply for a 407, a trainee visa. And if you've got 2 years, 482, a 186 if you are in the medium to long-term list. And if you're working in regional Australia, perhaps a 494, which has a much higher list. So these options are available, but maybe, as I took that first example, that accountant might have to qualify a little bit more. So without stopping studies, go on to do some further studies, get a new COE, qualify yourself, but the chances are that you can't quickly go to a 491 or a 190 or a 189, but employer sponsors. Now, the question that people will ask me how difficult it is. This was difficult. Employer nomination was difficult because employers didn't know what. But I can assure you that every other company now employs foreign employees, we call it foreign employees because they are not an Australian citizen, on these visas, especially the 482 and the 407. So I feel still it's not that after you finish your studies, you pack your bags and go back to your country. It's important to get some advice, go and meet your migration agent and get a tailored solution. There is always a solution, but you need to do some work on it. We'll go to our third topic. Remember that you can ask me questions on each of these discussions that we had. 485 visa key updates for 24-25. I think majority of you are aware of it because this is available, and where we know that those long 485 periods are not given anymore, because the bachelors are only attracting 2 years, and also the people who do the PhD, they get the a visa which is higher, a period that is longer, and so forth, which is unfortunate, because just the other year that they changed and said you can, use the CRICOS course to extend your visa and so forth. However, remember that if you have studied in regional Australia, that is available, the extension. So that's a good thing. But after you finish your studies, and when you're on a 485, you should have been living and working in regional Australia to qualify for this second post-study visa. And the English requirement, why did they change that? We don't know. Did you lose your English knowledge because you came to Australia? I'm not too sure about that. So again, unfortunately, the test results should be within 12 months of applying with the PTE or IELTS or whatever the alternate exams. Stay periods. Let's go back to the stay periods. Bachelor's degree, including honors, is only 2 years. Master's also 2 years. Master's in research and doctoral studies, PhD, 3 years. But for the Hong Kong and the British nationals, they might be able to given 5 years, right? And even when they are over 35, they can still apply for the 485. What's the rationale? I'm sorry, gentlemen and ladies, I really don't know. And stay period for Indian nationals, we have a Australia India Economic Cooperation and a trade agreement. So that's the government at a very high level, and they will have their what we call a rationale to have applicants with Indian national background to have certain courses as bachelor's degree with a first class STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, including ICT, up to 3 years, and the doctor and the masters by research up to 3 years. That's very similar to others, but in the doctoral studies up to 4 years. So there's been some changes over there. What this means is it gives you lesser time to prepare for your permanent residency and your pathways. So just being mindful with that. Now, going back, the state governments, I brought this in because it's timely, it is relevant. We have Western Australia, the Northern Territory, and the ACT. I won't go into specific criteria because that's a little bit too much to go through at this moment of time. We can always, you can come and have a chat with us, and people in Western Australia, people in Northern Territory, ACT, and offshore. So all these states are opening for giving an opportunity for offshore candidates too. It's so important that you have your skill assessment completed correctly. As you know, some of the skill assessments are difficult to do, especially when it's from wet SS or ACS. ACS has an option, I think, to have different occupations, especially in IT, where you can get assessment for different occupations. Getting your English test in a timely manner, getting your, if you are doing NATI, if you're doing a professional year, maximize. And one of the interesting things about also partner points. At what time do you claim as a single? At what time do you claim as a partner? And what the partner can claim, you can claim partner points by 5 points, for the partner doing 6 each in IELTS or PTE 50 each. And if he or she is qualified, depending on what stream, whether if you're in the medium to long-term leaves, and she also has an occupation and claiming those 5 points. And there are some very critical things. What happens when you, during the EOI, you got married, or in fact, you got separated? How do you change? Remember, EOI is extremely crucial. Once you commit to the EOI and you are claiming something and you get an invitation, it freezes. You can't do nothing about it. If you claim 85, you have to get 85. Even though the pass mark is 65, you can't say, look, I can claim 80. Why can't I get it? No. So it's extremely important. And it is extremely important that the EOI is a dynamic document. It's very, very important that, in fact, you update your EOI very carefully, and multiple EOIs. And certain states don't encourage 491 and 190 both. So carefully finding out what are the opportunities, what are the chances, because what I always say is there are some, one of my clients that will ask, Sanjay, I want a 190, I don't want a 491. I always say, please do take, if you get the 491, do take it, because you know from there on, your permanent residence is guaranteed so long as you live in regional Australia. And especially I give that advice for people who come from Adelaide or Western Australia or Northern Territory specifically, where you can stay anywhere, and or ACT, as a matter of fact. But if you take Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, it's only the suburbs close by that to the city that is considered non-regional. So that's a dialogue that one needs to have. And every single case, I can assure you that every single of our clients would have to get a tailored solution from our relationship managers. The states and territory nominations is something that also that one needs to very carefully monitor. The processes are always different. Some say you have to have a register of interest. Some say that you only have an EOI, and some say you have to change the EOIs and so forth. And one other thing is that we all know that state governments have their certain requirements. Now, we might have a situation where in our state government sponsorship application, we try to comply, try to claim what they want to hear, but not forgetting that they would very closely monitor and cross-check that with the UI. Now, what happens is that I'll take a practical example which I came across, and you get a letter and go to the state government saying that you have been working in a closely related occupation. Let's say an accountant, but he's not an accountant, he was an office manager, but he gets a letter and saying that he did some accounting work and goes to the state government. Now, the problem is that in his EOI, in the work experience, he knows he cannot claim that work experience as an accountant, because the documentation, supporting documentation, or the skill assessment or work experience assessment tells you a different story. So you can't have a situation where in your EOI you say, I worked at A Limited as an office manager. Are you claiming points? You say no, but you go to the state government and say, yeah, I did some accounting, so I'm raising. They will check back on the EOI. So so keeping that all that in mind but working towards that and staying informed, because the government announcements are very important, and a lot of people have access to information, and consider not that you need to go to a migration agent, but it is it's something that um, that we are not there here to fill a form for you, but to give you some guidance, give you sometimes we give career pathways to achieve your permanent residency. That's what we all are here. And timing yourself, keeping those documents, what are the documents, and making sure that that you have a good application and good timeline planning. And one of the things that you need to look at regional options. They are, even when you go for an interview, it's less competitive. And regional Australia is really good. It's not that you need to look, when you're looking for work, you need to look just out and make sure that you are ready to move. I also want to mention here, I believe we have participants from all states, Western Australia and Adelaide and so forth. I will be doing a road show. The first will be in Perth. I will be there on the 21st and the 22nd. People can come and meet me in person, but with, of course, a prior appointment, and have a chat. And I will be shortly announcing my visits to Darwin, Brisbane, Sydney, and Adelaide. If anyone is interested in coming and meeting me in person, who are not in Victoria, they could do so and get in touch with our office. Right. So that's our last topic. As I promised, I told you, like, I will keep more time for our questions and answers. I will just I'll come back to this, but just to let you know that our offices, we are in Australia, in some of the states, being Victoria being the main head office. We are represented in Sydney and as well as in Darwin. And in Sri Lanka, for especially the offshore applicants, we are in Pitakotte, a convenient place with parking and so forth. And the Middle East is by the Dubai office in Barsha Heights. Now, the last thing is you have this opportunity to use this QR code. We have a great monthly bulletin. It comes free, it's online, and subscribe. It's free. We are absolutely up to date, and it's a monthly, and there's a lot of time and effort put by the team to give you some a summary of accurate information. Sometimes it also has articles in Canadian and New Zealand migration too. So yes, now is our time to have questions and answers. I will come out of the screen at the moment, and we'll stop. Right. Yes, now we have time for questions and answers. I will, as much as possible, try to go through all your questions, and which I have already been getting whilst I've been on the webinar. Right, Iroshan, this is a question. I believe I have a panel who will also answer as and when there are a lot of questions coming up. This aged care vacancies is not, it's a lot of people ask me, can I do aged care? what has actually happened is there is some truth in it, but it is for some very specific organizations that have come under the Dharma rules. And so um, uh, therefore, there are not much opportunities whatsoever. Now, yes, right. Okay. So, yeah, please try to get these questions and answers. Okay. I have 5 years experience as a software engineer in Sri Lanka. I'm going to do a master's in Australia. Can I claim points for both Sri Lankan experience and Australian masters? Absolutely. So the work experience cannot be combined. Very important. The work experience has to be separated. When you're offshore, once you complete 3 years, between 3 and 5 years, you could claim 5 points. And from between 5 and 8 years, you claim 10 points, and over 10 years, 15 points. Excuse me. In Australia, after you complete 1 year, you can claim 5 points, and from 3 to 5 years, you can claim 10 points. Combine a maximum of 20 points only. And yes, and the Australian masters too, 5 points for completing the studies. Excuse me. Do they consider the number of years of experience mentioned in the skill assessment only, or can we put more into year according to our year of experience after the skill assessment? Yes, you can. Now I want to go into a little bit of detail issue on this one. You can do a skill assessment and you're still working, but you can continue to claim work experience in the place that you have been working in the same field at the time of the skill assessment and later on too. But if you change your occupation, then not that you can't claim, but you have to justify. When you claim work experience, it does not mean that your skill assessing body must give you that. Sometimes you can disagree with the skill assessing body and say, I'm going to claim work experience. I studied engineering. I'm working as an engineer, and I'm going to claim after I qualified. Now, the next one, is there an actual demand for IT occupations in Australia given less invitation that have been sent for the past financial years? No, there is a lot of IT occupations, as you know, that even Victorian government actually really gave many invitations to come through, and that again depending on from state to state. Is there a 482 medium to long-term nomination delay after nomination approval? What is the time of the visa approval? Chintika, it differs, but what I can tell you is if your employer is regional, they will look at it very, very, very quickly in a matter of days. So it can't, because it is depending on their workload. They will on their workload, they will determine, but they don't sort of delay too long. I have 5+ years of sales and marketing, currently working as an operation manager marketing with bachelor's degree. Is it possible to get an invitation for my fields as a marketing specialist, high demand? We need to wait till the new list do come in. Yes, certainly marketing specialists, I believe from memory, South Australia was very generous with marketing specialists some time ago. So when you open up the list, and you need to keep, but most importantly, you need to have the UIs in place, first in, first out, have your points ready. And I have above 5 years of experience as a nursing assistant and also NVQ4 curriculum. Can I have a chance to migrate to Australia as a caregiver? No, my question, short answer is no. I believe that, just to let you know, that in UK you have opportunities, and so forth. But not in Australia. I'm in Melbourne, so Manoj, yes, you can send an email to our inquiries at sanjicaldera.com or info@sanjicaldera.com. Please send your CV, and happy to arrange an appointment to discuss whatever your migration question. Right. And applicant is asking, participant is asking, my son and daughter are doing a master's in Victoria and Adelaide. They will finish their studies in 2025. When should they reach out to you to start their PR pathway? Should they wait till they find a job in the same field of their study? Okay, really good question. I believe that even when they are sort of in their final year, there's nothing, it's very important to come and have a chat. The reason being, I would like to know what they are studying. By finishing your studies and applying for a 485 and then coming and meeting me might not be the best. The reason being that I might have wanted during the final year people to take certain subjects to qualify and major, or advise them that don't take the 485, they need to study a little bit more, do the masters in their field, because certain occupations straight from the bachelor's they could go, but even after you do a master's, there might be that you may have to further skill to find a PR pathway. And so, yeah, even before they finish their studies, it's a good good idea to come and have a chat. The next question, can you advise whether there is a list of authorized sponsored employers that offer 4A? No, I think you are referring to a 482 visas. No, 485, you don't need any employer to sponsor you. You only need for a 482. But if you're referring to the 482, no, there is no list. It is just that you need to find a job and then have a chat, convince your employer to sponsor you. Why has Queensland have lesser nomination places this financial year? I'm not too sure, but it's just that in generally they have reduced the migration numbers because of various, especially housing issues and so forth. But how they determine the quotas, we don't know. But generally, they would give higher numbers to New South Wales and Victoria being more populated than in Queensland. Malika has put down some good information. I am a procurement supply chain professional with MSc BSc qualification. Also, I have over 18 years experience in my field. My VETS assessment done, positive, but issue is age of 45. But I'm trying 482, especially DAM areas with new extensions. Please kind advise how find good employee in Australia. See LinkedIn, you're workable. Look, it is hard from overseas, but that doesn't mean people have not found jobs and got sponsors. There is no age limit for 482. I hope, Malika, you know about that. There is no age limit. But your problem is, from a 482, how can you go on to becoming a permanent resident? I'll explain this situation. If you're on a 482, and you're going to be over 45 years, as you have already pointed out, there is some exemptions for age. One is if you're a medical doctor and that you have been practicing in regional Australia. Otherwise, if you're a scientist, a university lecturer sponsored by the government organization or a university. Third is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what occupation, but should you have drawn a salary of more than the high income threshold, which at the moment is approximately 170,000 Australian dollars gross your salary before super. And if you earn that for 2 years, so the high profile jobs do get that money. then can claim for an exemption. If you're over 45, the employer can sponsor you after 2 years on the employer nomination transitional basis. So hope Malika that you have got that answer. Maisha says, thanks. Can you advise us how to find an employer? Look, first and foremost, it's sometimes pretty difficult to go to an employer and find a sponsorship. First, you need to be employed. And sometimes initially you might have a conversation, say, look, could you please consider me for sponsorship because my visa is running out. But first you need to get into a job. It's not trying to find a company who's sponsoring you. It's first finding an employment and then having that discussion. Can I lodge an EUI for a 190 or a 491 while studying masters in Australia if I have already got? Absolutely. No issue at all. And that's what I was referring to. If you were having work experience and you were more than 35 years, yes, absolutely. You would be looking at those options. Not an issue at all. My son is currently, someone says my son is currently studying in hospitality management field in Victoria, Australia. Are there good job opportunities in this field once he completes the course after 3 years? Without a doubt, someone. Now, when you say hospitality management, there are two things. One, is he a chef? Or is he doing hotel management? So if he's a chef, yes, there's a lot of opportunities, but to a lesser extent if you're doing a bachelor's in hospitality management, which the occupation can, the qualification can relate to a cafe and restaurant manager, a hotel manager, a motel manager, an events manager, and so forth. So there are plenty of opportunities because the hospitality industry in Australia is very, very robust. So, but I wouldn't know when you said the hospitality whether it was in as a chef, as a cook, or in management. Hi, I'm a CIMA qualified accountant with 8 years of external audit experience, age 34. If there's scope of external auditors, if yes, IELTS general or IELTS general, IELTS academic to be done. Yes, if you're CIMA qualified, you need to be an ACMA or a FCMA. But if you're CIMA qualified and you have a bachelor's degree, you don't need the ACMA. You can get a skill assessment. Yes, external auditors are in demand. Yes, there is an opportunity for you to be, again, CIMA qualified with an ACMA or CIMA qualified with a bachelor's degree. And IELTS must be academic. IELTS 7 each. You need to get. Yeah, very important. Darshana Mercena says, if I apply skill migration under accountancy category, should I need to do English test before skill assessment? Absolutely. Just now, as I answered for the external auditor, you cannot do a skill assessment for as an accountant until you get your IELTS 6 or a PT 65. Yes. Why is a latency in updates from you all as an agency unless and otherwise we reach out to our respective relationship managers? Look, I want you to be more specific. This will not help any other participants. I'm happy to take your question, and I believe you might be not happy, but this is not the forum to take. Please reach out to me in confidence, and I will be more than happy to take your issue. Yes, thanks. What are you saying is even in Dhamma areas, very hard to get employer sponsorship because my occupation has age exemption up to 50 years. That's why if I come to Australia as a visit, apply for it, will it be workable? Yes, you can, but remember, make sure that your employer is willing to sponsor you and you tick all the boxes. Are there any job opportunities for individuals with experience in NGOs NGOs in finance administration and project administration roles. Yeah, so when you said the NGOs, I was more looking at social workers, but you're talking about you've been an accountant in an NGO. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As an accountant, you need to be ready to take up any job, whether it's in NGO, public sector, or private sector. Hi, Sanji. I'm a student, 40 years old, currently doing a diploma in automotive, which is finishing in September, and looking for a job in the field, but finding it hard. I couldn't find full-time work. Right? Do I have a chance to go for a 407 visa? Absolutely. Shiraz, now it's this is, I'll go back to my old example. Okay, you're over 35. What do I do? Do I get and if you're not a Hong Kong or a British passport holder, you're not going to apply for a 485. What do I do? Yes, the 407 is the one. Now, it depends on what experience did you have before, from age of 20 to age of 40, right? But let's say that the automotive diploma is the new thing that you have been studying. Absolutely important, because once you finish your studies, you might have about 2 or 3 months left in your visa. So it's important for you to, before finishing your studies, start part-time work with an employer and explain the situation and go in for a 407, because 407 means that employer doesn't have to go to a lot of lengths of advertising, pay you 70,000 or nothing of that. You need a minimum salary, 20 hours or more, and work towards your 482 and your 186 visa before you're 45 and you become a permanent resident. So Shiraz, good luck with that. Yeah. Isuru says, is there any methods available to get a skill assessment for a medical doctor in the same field or related fields? Thank you. Yeah, no, medical doctors don't get skill assessments, right? Medical doctors go to the Australian Medical Council and APRA and get a registration to practice without conditions equal to a skill assessment. I hope it's a quick answer that is, but yeah, you have to work a lot with the AMC and the APRA in order to get not a skill assessment, a registration to practice without any conditions to apply for a permanent residence. But you can apply for other visas without getting. You need to get a registration, but not without any conditions. Can we claim overseas experience or graduate stream PR pathways, which are available in Western and South Australia? Yes, you can. Now, I'm not too sure whether you're going to apply offshore, onshore. Please write in, and we will introduce you to a relationship manager who will sit down with you and see whether you can apply for any of the state sponsorships. Yanishan asks, what are the approximate timeframes of 190, 189, 491 visas? Unfortunately, when you talk about timeframes, I'm not too sure whether the timeframes that you're talking about from an invitation, from an expression of interest to an invitation, or after you lodge the visa to get your visa. So I'm not too sure. If you can be a little bit more specific, I might be able to answer. But yes, again, timeframes are all over the place. Mahisha says, I'm 40, have 8 years experience as a telecommunication assistant engineer in Sri Lanka, but I'm still couldn't find a job in Islam. I'm trying to seek advice, please. Yes, Mahisha, I do know. Now you're 40 years of age. Now, again, as I go back, it's imperative that two things you need to do. You need to have a skill assessment going so that you get yourself some opportunity for a 189 or a 190 or a 491. That's another thing on the point system. But you have to have an EY. You have to have a skill assessment. But in the meantime, try to also go and meet up with NBN suppliers. There are a lot of people who lay cables and so forth. So you could claim some work experience as a telecommunication technician, working with them. and getting them to sponsor you. So there's an opportunity there with NBN workers or NBN employees who lay out those cables and so forth. I'm 24 and currently working as a paraplanner in Sri Lanka, which services Australian clients. How can I leverage this into migrate and get a PR? Hoping to become a financial advisor in Australia. Right. I think I need to get a complete CV with your qualifications and work experience. And practicing as a financial advisor here needs a special license now, but that's different. Most importantly is to see what occupation and you need to get in order to get to Australia. My husband is specialized in financial compliance and anti-money laundering and banking industry, age 39, VP at a leading international bank. Is there any scope for him in the related industry? Now, one of the things I would most probably say is at that level, at that type of experience, it'll be good if you can come through an employer sponsorship in the banking sector. I have to admit that the occupation list is pretty slow to change. In this modern world, we have lots of occupations which come up, but as from a migration aspect of it, it takes quite a bit of time for them to change the list and list out modern occupations which have come about. But yes, in the banking industry, I would want you to make those applications across to all financial institutions and see whether they are willing to sponsor you. But we are happy to look at it a bit carefully, whether it is in ICT security or cybersecurity, or whether it's in IT or whether it's more to the banking. Conventionally, banking occupations had less opportunity, I have to admit, unless as a financial institution branch manager, which also didn't have much scope. But I see that in the banking sector, there are occupations in the banking sector, like this ICT or accounting or HR or marketing, that in fact can move on to occupations that are in the list. My son is a business information system master student in Victoria. Since the PR path is hard in that course, is there any way he could restart the PR path without applying and start another teaching course from the start? His course will end this year. Yes, please. Not enough of information. Please let me have. Feel free to send out the CV, have a consultation, and seeing am I getting the idea that that he's trying to do pre-primary teaching, early childhood education, and moving to teaching. A lot of people are doing it, but one has to carefully think, is that the really thing that we want to do in life? Could you please share some testimonials on your clients? We have plenty of testimonials in our website, Google reviews. Yes, more than happy to share. I think could you please get in touch with us? Aisha, our marketing manager, would be more than happy to share and guide you and to those. Many testimonials. If I want to apply work visa in Australia, should I face any skill assessment exam, sir? It depends on which citizenship you hold. Depending on the citizenship that you hold and depending on the occupation that you want to get a FOID to, you may or may not want to, you may or may not require a skill assessment. But generally, professional occupations, you don't need a skill assessment, other than one very awkward in building supervisor, building manager. There is one occupation that you need a skill assessment. Other than that, in the trade, very important, depending on your citizenship and the occupation, there's a matrix who should do a skill assessment and who shouldn't. Irosha, I'm currently employed as a chef with 2 years of experience in this role. With 3 years remaining on my current visa, I'm seeking guidance on the most suitable visa options for my continued employment in Australia. Would you please advise whether the 186 direct entry visa or the 482 temporary skill shortage visa would be the most appropriate? Irosha, I have come across many of these situations. Should I wait another 1 year and go for the ENS? Please don't, because we really don't know when this department will change these rules. Go for the 482 now. Go it for the 482, because once you are in the 482, then your transitional opens up, or your direct entry also opens up. So you have a secure visa. But if for any reason down the track, now I must tell you that this is a good time, Irosha's question, I'm going to touch on. Jobs and Skills Australia look at occupations all the time. There is a lot of work they do, and they have what we call skill occupation, 4 skill occupation lists. They have various lists which they are targeting, and they say, okay, they are secure. These people, we need to find out whether we need them anymore. And some saying, I don't think we know they want these occupations. We are open for consultation. So we don't know where chefs or accountants or engineers will end up. Get the 482 in now. And when the employer is happy to sponsor, more than happy to assist. We do specialize in 482 and 186 in our practice, and we have a dedicated relationship managers. That's one of the things I want to say in our practice is you have a very qualified, experienced, dedicated relationship manager who you will always deal with, and that person will have a manager and also have access to me if there are any complicated matters. So yes, please don't wait for the 186. Go for the 482. If there's a standard service letter format ACS, please share any websites I can refer. Look, that's something that I wouldn't do. It is the testimony, the standard service letters guidance are only given to our clients who are signed up with us. I know you understand, and each occupation and each of that, and that's what your relationship manager will do with you. Upul, I'm in Sri Lanka and did all my skill assessment with as a program and project administrator, but I turned 45 last month. How can I apply for a 482? Please advise. Yes, Upul, it is that unfortunately you need to, it doesn't matter whether you're turned as 45, but you need to find employer who's willing to sponsor you for a 482, which doesn't have any age barrier. Having Gulf experience that expedite GSM process? Yes and no. I mean, wherever you work, it doesn't matter whether it is expats. But if you're working in the Gulf, your documentation is in better order compared to sometimes if you work in the subcontinent, because you have a contract, you're paid into the bank, you have your pay slips and so forth. So that would expedite your application. I asked for a standard service letter, but due to confidential reasons, I think you need to bring this matter up with me personally. I believe you're working with us, so this is not the forum to discuss it. My details are info@sanjicaldera.com. Happy to take your query and assist you within our company guidelines. Right. And I have another series of questions here. We've gone for about 1 hour, and let's see. These are some of the questions that I got asked even before the thing. So the first question being, I have studied in regional Australia, and can I apply for regional extension? Yes, absolutely. I did mention this. You could, because if you're studied and got your 485 and you continue to live in that area after some time and you prove that, yes, you could apply. Once again, we have another couple of questions from our participants. And can you tell me more about opportunities to find a sponsorship for a teacher who is having 12 years of experience, one who's turning 35 and completing her degree? I'm not too sure whether you're offshore or onshore. If you're offshore, you need to have 4 years of bachelor's or higher level education and at least 1 year in teaching, with 45 days of teacher training and so forth. But if you're qualified you had some experience in overseas, but qualified in Australia, we can look at that a little bit more closely. But teachers are in very high demand. And as you know that if you have not studied in Australia for the 4 years, you need to get those 2 high English scores, IELTS, 2 8s and 2 7s. Can I apply for a regional 485 extension after 36 if I already got my 485 before 36? Yes, I believe so. I need to confirm that, but I believe that you could get that extension. But please, if you can come back to me, I will give you. I will check, research, and at the registration before I confirm that. Is your company does find sponsorship for 482 visa for offshore? No, we don't. But what we do is we keep a register of, and it's done absolutely free of charge as a service. You could register with us and first look at even whether you can go general skill migration with your qualification. And then what we do is we have a lot of employers who have worked with us and they reach out to us. And if we can match, then we do it as a service. Yes. Now, again, going back to some of the questions that I've got before, which applicants are eligible for the 485 visa, even if they turn 36? So, yes, the people who have done Masters by Research and the PhD, or who hold a Hong Kong or a British passport. What is the duration of the 485? And as I said, it's 2 years and 3 years for people who are doing a bachelor's or master's in research. Age limit, as we talked about for the 485, it's 35 plus 364 days. Yeah, just before your 36th birthday. We also asked an English requirement for the 485, it's 6.5 average with 5.5 within the last 12 months. I'm currently doing my master's in IT and will complete it in September 2024. I'll turn 35 next month. Am I eligible to? Yes, you're in luck. No problem at all. You have 1 more year to apply. I'm currently doing my bachelor's and will complete it in January 2025, I think. Do I need to take English again as I took my studies in? No, yes, you need to do your English within 12 months. I'm currently on a 485 visa and living in Melbourne CBD. Can I get an extension of my 485 based on degree or credit cost? No, unfortunately not after 1st of July. I studied a bachelor's degree in regional Australia. How can I stay on the 485? Can I apply for regional extension? Stay there, work there in regional Australia, and you will get it. I'm living in Adelaide and doing my master's. I'm 26 years old, will finish my degree at end of November. Can I submit a 485 on the same day? No, very, very important for people who lodge their 485 on their, they cannot lodge a 485 on the day that they get their completion letter. It has to be at least a day after. Currently, I'm studying for my master's, which will end in February, and I'll be turning 36. What are the options available for me to stay longer? I think I went through in detail here. it's time that you don't wait for you finish your studies. It's important to come with your CV, come and have a chat, find out whether we can give a pathways to PPR by either using your current work experience and qualification for a 189 on the general skill migration pathway. Can we use your current qualification work experience to go through an employer sponsorship, or additional skills by studying further with a pathway for a 407 as soon as you finish your studies. And I'm studying for my master's in nursing, which will finish in January 2025. Unfortunately, I'm turning 36 in this same month. Won't be able to apply for a 485 visa. I need another year to get my registration. Can I apply for another master's with the time it needed? Yeah, Australia will accept students for university admission, even if the 485 is not granted. But some of the universities are very strict with the age requirement. And there's this question: I'm studying for a master's in IT, and my visa will end coming September. And due to some personal issues, I could pass 3 subjects. I need another 4 months to complete. But I'm turning 36 before the extension. Can I extend my visa if I turn? Yes, you can. I mean, you fail 3 subjects, and unfortunately, you have a double issue there because you're turning 36 and you have failed some exams. That's not a problem. You get an extension of your COE. We go to the department, explain the situation. They will extend the visa. It doesn't matter for a student whether they are more than 36 or so, but then it's really, really important to see those 3 options. What have I got now to GSM? Can I go for employer sponsorship, or do I continue to do further studies so that I can go in for a 407 or any other visas? I'm 30 years old, studying for my master's, which will finish in September. I'm hoping to apply for a 485 soon and complete my studies. My husband is turning 36 years old this month. Will there be a problem? No, age limit will be only for the main applicant. Another question from our participants: timelines online showing processing time for 491 takes 10 months. Can I expect an invitation on my 10th month? I think the processing times you're referring is after the visa is applied. We couldn't tell how long you'll take get an invitation, but processing times generally are for people who have applied for the visa. It could take a little bit more than 10 months for the 491. Yes, age restriction, like I said, doesn't apply to the partner. It's only the main applicant. Can a spouse of a student who is over 35 years old and currently studying in Australia apply for a student visa afterwards with new regulations? Yes, if the spouse is under 35 years, they can apply for a student visa and later become eligible for a 485, and this doesn't count on a visa hopping. Can I extend my student visa if I'm turning 35? Yes, you can. There's no issue at all. We have got some employer nomination questions which I've separated out. Can I apply for this will be some very, I did go through it and I thought I've selected some very important and timely questions, which are: can I apply for a 186 under direct entry stream if my occupation in the short-term list? No. Now, in the app, if your occupation is not in the medium to long-term list, you cannot apply for an 186 direct. You need to go and apply for a 482, do the 2 years, and then apply for a 186 on a transitional basis. Is there any differences in processing times, if my employer locates in regional Australia, absolutely. We can't just lodge and turn around. The case is taken up. Now, a question: if you received the visa for 189, 194, 48, not 485, 491, is there a time limit we need to migrate to Australia? Because I'm currently working, I have 1 month's notice period here. No, we will be given quite a long time before you. It's normally 1 year from your medicals that you will have time to come to Australia. So you'll have plenty of time. My occupation is in the ROL list. That's what you call regional occupation list. Can I apply for my 482 visa up to 4 years? Yes. So going back to the 482, there are 3 lists: medium to long-term list, short-term list, and regional occupation list. If you're in the medium to long-term list, you can apply up to 4 years. If it's in the short-term list, you can apply only up to 2 years. If I'm in the regional occupation list, you can again apply for 4 years. Now, it brings me to practical questions at which we give solutions. I said that after 2 years of being on a 482, that you can apply on transitional so long as your employer is going to support you on a 186. But if you're on a 482 on the short-term list and you've got a visa for 2 years, what do? Because you can't apply before the 2 years. You can't apply after 2 years because you got no visa, because your visa is expired after 2 years. What do we do? So it's said at that time, the department guidelines are very vague. They say that at the discretion of the case officer, you might be able to apply for about 2 or 3 days before your visa expires. I would not take that chance. Unfortunately, you need to apply for a new 482, maybe for 1 year, and get you over there. So, yeah, don't apply 2 or 3 days before. If you don't get a friendly case officer, you're in trouble. Right. Does my spouse require to undertake English for a 186? It is mandatory. It is mandatory. You need to have English, but you can provide functional English. Get a 4.5 average if you've been studying in secondary school, if you've been studying in Australia and all that. Yeah, you can show it in different ways. Do my partner have work limitation if I'm on a 407 training visa? Yes. You can have only 40 hours a fortnight. Are there age restrictions to 407? No, applicants can be more than 18 years of age, understandably, but no restrictions. But when you talk about 407 and somebody trying to train something in occupation, you tend to have to be young. And what is young? I don't know. Yes, but you get the idea. Can a sponsorship visa be rejected due to health issues? When we talk about sponsorship visa, we're not talking about the nomination. We're not talking about the sponsorship, standard business sponsorship. We're talking about the visa application. Yes. When there is a medical issue in the family, they do give exemptions for medical issues for temporary visas, non-permanent resident visas. But when it comes to permanent resident visas, they don't. There is how you face medicals is there is a set limit of 55,000 or 60,000, the figure. If your medical condition during a lifetime is going to be more than that amount, then they give us an opportunity, and we can then challenge that by getting other medical doctors who understand this migration system to substantiate that our clients' medical condition does not go over that. But some you can't change. I mean, I've come across a person which is 1.2 million because unfortunately the child was sick. We have no option to do. The visa is refused. Can my employer sponsor me under 482 visa if the company already obtained a sponsorship accreditation for 407? No, there are 2 kinds. For the 407 and the 494, it goes hand in hand. And for the 482, it is separate. So you have to get two different sponsorship, which we call it standard sponsorship, SBS, and that lasts for 5 years. How long do I have to find a new employer for my 482 if I already left my current employer? The recent changes we talked about, the 180 days. Yeah, it's very good, very, very welcoming. Common sense have prevailed on that. And let's say we have got, all right, we've been almost going for 1.5 hours. We might end this webinar around 9 o'clock. But if there are questions, I'm really happy to take it on, or you could contact us directly. I'm currently studying commercial cookery certificate 3 for diploma in hospitality management and turning 43 years in November 2024. And I'm currently employed in a hotel kitchen part-time. Will I stand a chance for PR? Very close. I need to look at your documents very closely to find out how many years of work experience did you have. So the chances here are through general skill migration rather than employer sponsorship. I'll tell you why. If you get 43 years old, and if you go through the job ready program, which is 1 year, and you get a full skill assessment as a chef, and you get an invitation on the 190, 491, not the 189, are really unlikely. And if you get an invitation before 45, great. You apply for a visa. But if you are relying on employer sponsorship, you need to have about 2 years to get the 482. You have another 3, not altogether 3 years to apply for 186 direct as a chef. So your only hope is, might be a good idea to move regional too, because the chances are might be a little bit more that you finish your studies soon as possible. And see whether, in fact, sorry, I do take back, you're 43 years of age, so unfortunately, you don't have time to do the job ready program. Yeah, my apologies. You don't have time, so you have to go in for a 407. Nothing else but a 407. And a few general questions which I have separated out in general skill migration. Can I bring my family to Australia on a skill migration visa, and what do they need to provide? Yes, so all can be included. They all have to go undergo medicals. They all have to undergo character tests if they are over 16 years of age. My spouse and also an IT professional, can we both apply for skill migration together? Yes, you can. But yeah, if the occupations are different, it might, otherwise you'll be competing with each other if it's the same occupation, but that's fine, you can. I'm a civil engineer with 10 years of experience. What documents do I need to provide for skill migration? Okay, so if you're a civil engineer, first we must find out where your qualification came from. If it's under the Washington Accord, we don't need any work experience. We just provide the qualification assessment, and then we go and get the work experience assessment. But if your educational institution where you had your tertiary studies is not under the Washington Accord, we need to do what we call a competency demonstration report. We have to show 3 career episodes, and we are quite happy to guide you through that process. Yes. All right. So those are some of the questions that we got webinar. As I said, there are a few questions that has come from the participants. I want to remind you that on the 21st and the 22nd, I'll be in Western Australia in Perth. Please feel free to get in touch, make an appointment and come and see me, or you can also get in touch and have a consultation on Zoom and so forth. And it's a good time. Western Australia has opened up. And then, of course, a road show going to various capital cities and assisting people. So when is the next round of invitations expected? Which states are likely to open soon? as I said, Western Australia has already opened, Northern Territory and ACT. And we are waiting for the big states like South Australia, Victoria, and New South Wales, Tasmania to open up. I'm an external auditor with ACMA UK qualification. Excellent. Age 34. Do you suggest me to get a CPA? Get the CPA Australia as only one subject to complete and then apply for visa? Or could you suggest me to apply, sign up with you further? Come on, I'm going to read this again. Sorry. I'm an external auditor with an ACMA qualification. Suggest me to get the CPA Australia as only one subject to complete and then apply for visa. But look, if you are a ACMA and you have done auditing as a subject, then you can get a skill assessment. I'm not too sure why you need one subject. Can you please get in touch? There is no obligation. Our relationship managers will go through the core subjects and say, do you have to do it or not to do it? Definitely, yeah. But ACMA, if you've got an ACMA, there should not be a problem. But I think what you're talking about in an external auditor. So perhaps you may have not done auditing, but I think the ACMA called SIMA does have auditing now. Yeah, please get in touch with us. Right. Interesting. We have touched on some. I trust our participants did get any of their queries answered. We were on Facebook Live too, with many people participating. I would like to give some general advice. I always believe that a skilled applicant should and always should find a solution in their pursuit for permanent residency. One of the key factors is that getting ready, being prepared, doing the right course, getting the right advice is absolutely mandatory, and getting the right advice in the right time. We look after students, especially now overseas posts. One of the things we also do is career planning, having a clear pathway, and to, even though rules changes, you don't get affected. If you're studying in Australia or even overseas, the key to finding permanent residency, doesn't matter what the occupation is to work in the field, work in a closely related field to your education. Whether it comes on the short-term list, whether it is in this list or that list, it doesn't matter. It's important that you work in the area of study. Your chances of permanent residency or your pathways to permanent residence are a lot. But if you do a different occupation, very sadly, I've known that students who study one field, they have got a job which has got nothing to do with their studies. It's paying well. It's really difficult for that person to say, I want to leave this job and I need to find a job in my field which might pay me much less than what the job I'm doing at Woolworths or somewhere. So that advice is absolutely essential. However hard, and if you're even taking a reduction in your salary, do work in your area of study. The answers will come to you. Get the advice early. Don't wait till you finish your studies, midway your studies, because there are many people who are just doing business administration. I said, look, you need to specialize in some. There's accounting or HR or marketing. You do have to specialize in some. Just a science degree and just a business management degree without any specialization is not going to help. So that's the advice I give. couple of things. Please get in touch with us if you want any further advice. Please log in and subscribe to our great migration, immigration monthly bulletin, which brings you heaps of information, very interesting articles, easy to read, and it's free online. And as you know, that we are represented in the Middle East, in Sri Lanka, and of course in a couple of states in Australia. Once again, I know it's 1.5 hours on a Friday evening. I congratulate you for listening to me, but most importantly, hope you have got something out of this webinar. On that note, I will end this webinar. Have a good night. Have a good weekend. Most importantly, keep safe.